Good morning. I wanted to make a quick video going over these two documents for today and some of the questions. This first one is on the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce. We're asking, what was it? Then we're going to look at the main idea here. So we're going to look at discrimination. Does it support discrimination? And lastly, does it support document B that we read yesterday? Let's take a look at it and read it real quick. All right, this is document C, Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce, written by Arthur G. Arrow. He was the secretary and general manager of the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce, a federation of Los Angeles businesses. So there's our definition of what the Chamber of Commerce is. He wrote this letter in response to a University of Michigan student's request for information on migratory labor in California. Here's his address. He writes here, "Dear Mr. Brunsky, I have your favor before me requesting information regarding the casual or migratory labor in California. I am enclosing a number of articles touching upon this question, particularly concerned with the type of labor which during the war and those years following the war up to 1929 proved all that we could ask. I mean, the American of Mexican stem and the Mexican immigrant. California's agriculture for all those years required the services of a migrating army of some 170,000 of these people. During the first years of the Depression, we lost around 160,000 of our Mexican people. They were frightened out of the state, mostly by the cry of the vast increase in population, which had within recent years come into California from temperate region areas and unfamiliar with the fact that the Mexican labor was an older citizen as a rule than himself, yet adhered to the slogan, 'Do not hire a Mexican if a white man is out of work.'" I'm going to highlight those two parts, right? That show discrimination. Frightened out of the state, so they were terrorized. And he signs it here at the end. So looking at the questions. For one, what was the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce? We saw that up here, right? The sourcing questions you can always answer from the top. All right, they describe what it is there. In the last paragraph, they wrote, employers followed the rule, do not hire a Mexican if a white man is out of work. What does this suggest about both social conditions for Mexicans in the U.S. at this time? Does that show they were treated equally, they were given good work, or faced discrimination? I think you can figure that one out on your own. Lastly, does this account support or go against the claim white workers were taking Mexicans' jobs in document B? Remember document B? We saw the pictures. White families coming in to California, right? And pretty much replacing Mexican agriculture workers. Does this document support that? Let's move on to document D. Apology Act for the 1930s Mexican Repatriation Program. This is an excerpt from a bill passed by the California legislature in 2005. So if it's in 2005, this is still a primary document because it is written by the California legislature. Actually, we would consider this secondary because they were not there. They're writing this after the fact. The legislature finds and declares all of the following. A, beginning in 1929, government authorities and certain private sector entities in California and throughout the United States undertook an aggressive program to forcibly remove persons of Mexican ancestry from the United States. C, in total, it is estimated that 2 million people of Mexican ancestry were forcibly relocated. I'm going to highlight that part. Forcibly relocated to Mexico, approximately 1.2 million of whom have been born in the United States, including the state of California. So we should know, if you're born here, you're a citizen. So these citizens of Mexican descent were deported. Throughout California, massive raids were conducted on Mexican American communities, resulting in the clandestine removal of thousands of people, many of whom were never able to return to the United States, their country of birth. So these citizens who were deported, many of them were never able to come back. These raids had the effect of coercing, which means forcing, thousands of people to leave the country in the face of threats and acts of violence. F. These raids targeted persons of Mexican ancestry, with authorities and others indiscriminately, which means without choosing, just everybody, doesn't matter who you are, characterizing these persons as illegal aliens, even when they were United States citizens or permanent legal residents. So it's saying everyone was considered an illegal alien, regardless of your residential status. G. Authorities in California and other states instituted programs to wrongfully remove persons of Mexican ancestry and secure transportation arrangements with railroads, automobiles, ships, and airlines to effectuate the wholesale removal of persons out of the United States to Mexico. H. As a result of these illegal activities, families were forced to abandon or were defrauded of personal and real property, which often was sold by local authorities as payment for the transportation expenses incurred in their removal from the U.S. So their homes, cars, other valuable property were taken and sold without their permission. The state of California apologizes to those individuals for the fundamental violations of their basic civil liberties and constitutional rights committed during the period of illegal deportation and coerced immigration. So again, they're deported. The state of California regrets the suffering and hardship those individuals and their families endured as a result of the government-sponsored repatriation program of the 1930s. Let's take a look at the questions. So for 4, what kind of document is this? Primary or secondary? We went over that earlier. Just highlight it to answer it. 5, contextualization. Why might this document be more reliable than others? It's secondary, but it's more reliable because of which one of these 3? Corroboration. Does document D support the idea that Mexicans were discriminated against for employment during the 1930s? Did they face discrimination? I think that's pretty obvious. So highlight your answers, hit submit, and I'll see you tomorrow.